By the time Ravyn Lenae made her appearance on Black Swan, she was only 3 years into her professional music career. At age 15, she had signed her first record deal. However, she's always been involved in music ever since she was a child. Growing up in Chicago, Ravyn Lenae attended the Chicago School for the Arts, where she began developing her songwriting style, which is influenced by classical music and musical theater.
When I write, I like to imagine sort of a fantasy world, and I think that translates in my music because I pick very Disney-like melodies and Cinderella nuances that I think people pick up on. It's a matter of me being exposed to classical music and musical theater, and their melodies and their word choices are just so beautiful and deliberate, especially French composers. The melodies are very floaty and beautiful and poetic. So I fell in love with that aspect of classical music and musical theater. And I just really wanted to pair it with my own personal style.
Around the same time, she started going to classic studios where she would record her first song, Greetings. There, she would meet Smino and Monty Booker, who would later become Zero Fatigue. Finding community within this group, Ravyn Lenae would work with Monty Booker on songs for her debut EP, Moon Shoes, as well as contributing vocals to the producer's EP, Selection White Label. At the time, Ravyn Lenae's style was more ethereal, otherworldly beats that mixed acoustic instruments such as harp and guitar with unique percussion patterns. Her jazzy, characteristically high-pitched melodies would send her songs into the stratosphere, a la Millie Riperton, such as on her early standouts such as Spice and Sticky. Across the two EPs she had released at the time, Moon Shoes and Midnight Moonlight, you could still hear a restlessness in her creativity, as she experimented with other genres while searching for her sound, such as funk, R&B, and even a little bit of electronic music. However, her skills are on full display in this period of her life, as exhibited on her feature on Smino's song, Glass Flows. What's good, y'all? My name is August Graves. I'm a rapper, singer, producer, and music commentator. And this is Lyrics of Rap Explained. On the last episode, we discussed Maraca, Smino's survey of his relationships and what motivates him as an artist. At the core of his song is a recognition of his own power, and through the power of self-belief and hustle, he's able to make things shake and create a lucrative future for himself and his team. While everything seemed to be going up for Smino around this time, both professionally and creatively, there were also moments for growth and also moments of heartbreak, as he had previously mentioned in an interview with Billboard that he was also dealing with the breakup of an ex around this time. These unresolved feelings and meditations manifest within the album's next song, Glass Flows. Glass Flows is a tense duet between Smino and Zero Fatigue's leading lady, Ravyn Lenae. Over delicate production, they lament the dissolution of past relationships, and through the metaphor of glass floors, Smino and Ravyn Lenae are delicately navigating hurt feelings, cherished memories, and miscommunication. Glass Flows is structured similarly to rap and R&B duets between a rapper and a singer. Method Man and Mary J. Blige's You're All I Need to Get By. And Nelly and Kelly Rowland's Dilemma. This style of song places the artist within the context of a relationship, either expressing their love for or frustrations with each other through the lyrics of the song. Traditionally, the singer is relegated to the hook and the bridge when providing her perspective, while the rapper expresses himself throughout the verses. Through this lens, we can presume that Ravyn Lenae is playing the role of Smino's ex-girlfriend on this song, while simultaneously sharing her own experience with relationships. Glass Flows is produced by Monty Booker. The harmonic backing of the song is a reverse sine wave that whistles like wind against open glass. The drum pattern consists of a knocking kick that is complemented by a clicking hi-hat. On every third beat, a deep snap anchors the shaky drums. The sound appears to echo the concept of walking across a fragile surface, trying to keep balance as one navigates across the delicate glass. When discussing some of the creative decisions when mixing the song, Elton Mixed It stated, "I spent an entire day just on the vocals for that track, cleaning them up and panning, so much panning between Smino and Ravyn Lenae. When I heard their verses, I visualized the push and pull concept to the song, so I wanted the mix to reflect that. So as Ravyn's verse fades out to the left, for example, Smino's is coming in from the right and rests in the middle, and their vocals are doing that constantly. So as you begin to listen to the song, let's see if you can pick up on that."
Walking light on these glass floors. My tippy, I'm told. You know what I'm thinking? I think I made you too special. You tell me, you should me. When I try to think about you, babe. Walking past my feet, see why you never leave. You was really a vessel. Okay, it bled, I bled out. You ran out. You stayed. Lately, I've been thinking about your glow again.
Smino starts the song by saying, "Walking light on these glass flows." Flows is a homophonic double entendre. Similar to Smino's use on Maraca, Smino bends the sound floor to make it sound like flows. In this case, Smino states that he's walking light on these glass floors metaphorically, which in turn stands for glass flows, or tense conversations. Tying into this thought, Smino uses another split compound by saying, "My tippies, I'm toe up." By splitting tippy toes, Smino utilizes each part to explain how he's dealing with these glass flows. By saying "my tippies," he's stating that to navigate across this glass floor or the glass flows, he's on his tippy toes. However, he flips the toes part into another homophonic double, tore, as in tore up. This implies three things. One, that Smino's feet are tearing up from failing to avoid broken glass. Two, he's emotionally torn up from this tense relationship. Or three, he's succumbing to his vices, such as liquor and weed, in order to deal with these tense conversations. What's important to note is that Smino's reliance upon wordplay contrasts Ravyn Lenae's metaphor-laden yet direct evaluation of the relationship. As she states, "I think I made you too special." While we'll dig deeper into what she means by this when we enter her verse, this line clearly depicts an imbalance in perception. Ravyn Lenae had clearly valued her ex way more than he had valued her, stating, "You took me, you shook me, you shushed me when I try to think about you, babe." So this is an example of an ascendaton, the omission or absence of a conjunction between parts of a sentence. So therefore, instead of saying, "You took me and you shook me and you shushed me," she just gets to the point removing all conjunctions, perhaps in order to depict what a whirlwind the relationship was. Through the eyes of Smino's ex, we can take these lines to mean that when she entered the relationship, she was swept up by who Smino was shaken by the disillusionment, and then was quieted whenever she was concerned for him. She would then continue, "Walking past my feet, see why you never need me." Within the context of the song, we can presume that walking past my feet operates in a similar sense as the phrase "ships in the night," where the couples are missing each other. Within the environment of a glass floor, we can presume that Ravyn Lenae is attempting to show her partner that she too is standing on this glass floor trying to navigate this tense conversation, where she's asking why you never need me as a direct plea for vulnerability and potentially companionship within this hard time. However, Smino would then retort, "You was really a vessel, you cut it, it blooded, I bled out, you ran out, it's dead now." By using an extended blood scheme, Smino explains that the girl was a vessel for love. However, by cutting the relationship and cutting him off, the love and the blood swiftly left the relationship, causing it to die. However, given a certain twist that's revealed in the second verse, the way Smino describes the end of the chorus takes on a deeper meaning that we'll look into when the song ends. However, for whatever reason the relationship ended, Smino clearly sees the ex as the reason why the relationship ended or didn't work out. by saying, "You cut it and I bled out."
You ran out, it's dead.
Let me hear that right.
Lately I've been thinking about your glow again. Lately I've been thinking about it go again. Don't you know my diamond's sold? Don't you know my diamond's gold?
Lately I've been drinking, still dehydrated. Little chocolate water, Henny got me calling, hello operator. Tell her, shout it, grab the phone, fuck around it, been too long.
If I had another chance, I'd throw you off my back.
Ravyn Lenae starts the verse by saying, "Lately I've been thinking about your globe again. Lately I've been thinking about a go again." Through these lines, Ravyn Lenae is reflecting what many people feel post-breakup. They remember the reasons why this person was so special in the first place, equating it to a glow. Reminiscing on who he is and what made him special, Ravyn's potentially missing him to some extent, at least enough to want to entertain the idea of a second chance. However, she then questions, "Don't you know my diamond soul? Don't you know my time is gold?" By comparing herself and her time to precious metals and minerals, Ravyn Lenae is asking her ex if he recognizes that she's special as well. Not only is her soul as impervious and as valuable as a diamond, her time is a commodity that shouldn't be wasted either. A very clever way to describe alcoholism, Smino explains that he's been drinking to quench his quote-unquote thirst. Understood literally, Smino is consoling himself with Hennessy. However, the following lines reveal a double meaning to dehydrated by saying, "Low chocolate water, Henny got me calling, hello operator. Tell little shawty, grab the phone, fuck around, done been too long." In this case, the dehydration or the quote-unquote thirst is more figurative, as Smino is thirsty for another chance with his ex, potentially for a booty call.
Been too long.
If I had another chance, I'd throw you off my back. If I knew you had a plan, I'd never say attack.
Pity, pad, long paragraphs make me tense when you get like that. Fall back, took a trip, rolled the luggage, burn it back. That feeling like I need it now. Walking late on these glass floors. My tippy, I'm told, you know what I'm thinking.
At this point of the verse, it's very clear that both Ravyn Lenae and Smino have gotten second thoughts about trying again. Ravyn Lenae states, "If I had another chance, I'd throw you off my back." Through this line, Ravyn indicates that if she had another chance at the relationship, had she recognized the signs that things were going south sooner, she would have just immediately cut him off. In addition, she states, "If I knew you had a plan, I'd never say attack." Here, she's expressing second thoughts about potentially confronting him, because given that they had been in a relationship for a certain amount of time, one would presume that he would know exactly what hurts her. On Smino's end, he says, pity, pat, long paragraphs make me tense when you get like that." In this line, Smino is equating long paragraphs of explanations and feelings to childish games. And just like anybody who's ever received a long text message, especially within the context of a relationship, Smino admits that that form of one-sided communication makes him tense or puts him on the edge. As such, he needs to, as he says, fall back, took a trip, roll the luggage, burning pack. Through this travel scheme, Smino is using the words trip, luggage, and pack in order to describe how he's escaping from this tense situation, whether he means literally taking a trip or metaphorically taking a trip by using weed to remove himself. He then concludes the verse by saying that, "Feeling like I need a new thing." While we don't know why the word is omitted from the verse, we can presume that the censored word is fuck, as in fuck that. Smino is realizing that it's a fool's errand to try and pursue the relationship again, stating that he thinks he needs a new thing.
Rest assured, you about to ruin your pedicure. Tippy-toeing and sneaking in the shot. Can I go with you, huh? Feeling like any nigga in the room can be the guy. Feeling like every bitch trap on a skeleton of mine. Probably why I felt insecure that one night out in shot. Can I go back in time? Can I Michael J. Fox?
Starting off the second verse, Smino says, "Rest assured, you about to ruin your pedicure, tippy-toeing and sneaking in the shot." Sticking with the concept of glass floors, Smino says that the girl is going to metaphorically ruin her pedicure, sneaking around in Chicago. These lines slowly begin to reveal the reason why Smino and the ex broke up, because the ex was cheating. The next few sentences fall in line with the idea of paranoia when it comes to cheating, where Smino asks, "Can I go with you, huh?" Feeling like any nigga in a room can be the guy. Here, Smino is not only asking for him to go wherever his ex is going, sneaking off, he also says that whenever he's in a room with another guy, he's paranoid that any of the guys that he's with could be the guy that his ex is sleeping with. He then says, "Feeling like every bitch I bone a skeleton of mine." This line is doing multiple things very creatively at once. First, a bitch is a female dog. So, by Smino saying, "Feeling like every bitch I bone," he's comparing having sex with these different women to giving bones to dogs. In addition, the connecting idiom to skeletons is skeleton in my closet, as in having a secret to hide. Therefore, by using the term bone as connective tissue, he connects the idea of his promiscuity with having a secret. However, he says, "Feeling like every bitch I bone a skeleton of mine." This either could be two things. One, Smino is revealing that his own insecurity is that any woman that he's had sex with is about to become a secret that he's going to have to reveal. Or in the midst of her own infidelity, Smino's ex is trying to find other women that Smino has had sex with and try to expose him for being as much of a cheater as she is. Smino culminates all of this paranoid thinking into the line, "Probably why I felt insecure that one night out in Shy," due to the fact that he didn't know which man his ex was sleeping with, and he didn't know which one of his own women potentially would expose himself to them. Smino was probably feeling very uneasy going around Chicago.
One night out in shot. Can I go back in time? Can I Michael J. Fox? Probably call up Lil Barry and turn DeLorean in a hot box. Moonchild and shawty cry, shooting stars in the touch and cry. Cry me a river. I teach you how to build a boat. I'm John Cena with the visual. You can't see me, can't see me, no.
Control myself, oh my God, you're in my head. Control my health, oh my God, you're in my bed.
Smino then continues, "Can I go back in time? Can I Michael J. Fox? Probably call up Lil Barry and turn DeLorean into Hotbox." Wishing for simpler times, Smino is comparing himself to Back to the Future actor Michael J. Fox. In the movie, Michael J. Fox's character, Marty McFly, traveled through time in an old DeLorean. Similarly, Smino wishes that he were capable of traveling back in time. However, the closest Smino can get to this kind of reprieve is calling up Barry, his childhood friend and fellow rapper of Zero Fatigue, and hotboxing in the car. The next line was admittedly a little cryptic, but through context clues and breaking it down, I can figure out an interpretation. The line is, "Moonchild, Lil Shawty cry, shooting stars anytime she cry." Here, Smino likens his ex to a moonchild. The moon is often associated with heightened sensitivity, femininity, and emotional intensity. So, by extending it to moonchild, he's attributing these features onto her as well. By extending the celestial imagery, her tears become shooting stars. On the surface, this sounds like a romanticized compliment. Her sadness is rare and cosmic. However, the irony flips quickly. Shooting stars is supposed to be fleeting and special, yet, anytime she cries, it suggests it happens so often that the spectacle loses meaning. What should be wonder becomes drama. Therefore, Smino says, "Cry me a river, I'll teach you how to build a boat." Here, the sarcastic tone becomes more evident. Rather than being moved by her emotions, Smino reduces them to a cliche, "Cry me a river," and undercuts that grief with a punchline, "I'll teach you how to build a boat." It's cold, it's dismissive, and it reframes her tears as something that's more excessive and unconvincing. He then states, "I'm John Cena with the visual. You can't see me, can't see me, no." Here, Smino cites John Cena's famous catchphrase,
"Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me, my time is now." In case you forgot.
Here, Smino is telling the girl that he's made his final decision. She's not allowed to see him anymore. After what happened between them, the hurt and the drama isn't worth whatever good memories they had together. At this point, we cut back to Ravyn Lenae, who sounds like she's in her own push or pull between whether or not she wants to be with this guy.
Control myself, oh my God, you're in my head. Control my health, oh my God, you're in my bed.
Here we get a disorienting passage where Ravyn Lenae is having a push and pull effect within her mind. She's trying to determine whether or not she actually wants this guy. However, she says, I can't control myself. Oh my God, you're in my head. I can't control my health. Oh my God, you're in my bed. These lines reveal that Ravyn Lenae is losing her battle with herself and she is succumbing to the temptation of being with this guy. However, by revealing that she also can't control her health, she's revealing that she recognizes that this move isn't healthy for her. However, she can't stop herself from being drawn to this guy, and therefore, they end up being together, but not for a relationship, but for a one-night stand. These parallel sentences bring to mind the idea of thoughts leading into action. At first, the man was just in her head, just a thought, harmless, yet enticing. This leads into her acting upon this thought and resulting in the man ending up in her bed. Also, by the end of the second verse, we find that Smino and Ravyn Lenae are in different places due to their mindset. Due to Smino's avoidant nature when it comes to dealing with hard feelings within the song, we end the song seeing Smino far away from this girl and denying her access to him. She's not going to hurt him again. Conversely, Ravyn Lenae is very metacognitive about the relationship to the point of overthinking, where she's thinking about what was right with the relationship, what was wrong, culminating into a thought storm that resulted in the ex ending up in her bed. While these are both very different mindsets with regards to dealing with the end of a relationship, it's very clear that both of them are still in anguish after the result of this tumultuous relationship.
Oh my God, you're in my bed. Last blows. My tipping, I'm so what? You know what? I'm thinking. I think I made you too special. To me, you should me. When I try to think about you, babe, walked in past my baby. Why you never need me, babe?
That's so. You got it, blurred out, you ran out of zen now.
So now that we know that Smino's ex had cheated on him, we can now read the chorus in a different light, where instead of Smino singing it, it's Ravyn Lenae, where she says, walking light in these glass flows. Here, as the ex, Ravyn Lenae is revealing that she was indeed walking on glass flows on her tippy toes, trying to ensure that she was not found out for her infidelity. In addition, now when Ravyn Lenae sings, I think I made you too special, you took me, you shook me, you shushed me, what I tried to think about you, babe, what once stood as valid reasons for why the relationship wasn't working out, they now read as hollow excuses as for why the ex had cheated on Smino. She didn't feel like she was special enough, or she put too much energy into this man. And in addition, she was brought into a whirlwind where she wasn't considered, she wasn't valued, she wasn't considered special. And then the next lines, walking past my feet, babe, why you never need me. The ex is now lamenting that Smino never acted like he needed her, which now appears to include feeling insignificant within a relationship. She wasn't valued, and therefore she looked elsewhere for affection. Therefore, when Smino finally comes in for this last chorus, he says, you was really a vessel, you cut it, it blooded, I bled out, you ran out, it's dead now. Here, the was really finally sounds like post-relationship clarity. Now, going deeper into the definition of a vessel within two contexts. So a blood vessel is a canal in the body that carries blood, most often like an artery or a vein. However, within a human context, a vessel is considered a person who is regarded as a receiver or a container of something non-material. In this case, it'd be love. However, the perspectives that he employs through the pronouns that he uses are crucial. He states, "You cut it," implying that she's the reason why the relationship ended, in this case because of the cheating. And as such, it blooded, or the relationship itself, it started bleeding out. As did Smino, as he says, "I bled out." Here, he's metaphorically bleeding out, or in absolute anguish because his partner ran out. At this point, he reveals the relationship is dead now. Finally, I would love to just give credit to Ravyn Lenae for the vocals that she's employing all over the song, but especially in that final chorus. The soaring melodies that she hits at that point where she says, "Walking past my feet, babe, why you never need me." As a matter of fact, I'm just going to play it again as we go into the language analysis part of this program.
Glass flows, my tippet, I'm so what, you know what I'm thinking. I think I made you too special. To me, you should be. When I try to think about you, babe, walking past my feet, babe, why you never need me, babe.
That's so. You blurred it, you ran out of shit now.
So, what does the song say about Smino, this period of time in his life, and the story of Black Swan? Throughout the song, Smino was finding ways to deal with the fallout of this volatile relationship. In both verses, he finds himself under the influence of alcohol or weed, juxtaposing these vices with moments when the emotions became too much. In the first verse, Smino raps, "Makes me tense when you get like that, fall back, took a trip, rolling luggage, burning pack." This literal and linguistic getaway scheme uses travel language to metaphorically describe Smino smoking weed to escape or quote-unquote take a trip. This reaction is in response to the quote-unquote long paragraphs that his ex-partner is sending him. Whether he's attempting to cope or avoid his emotions, it's clear that he isn't in a frame of mind to deal with the angst. In addition, when reacting to his ex-partner's infidelity, Smino invokes nostalgic images to confront dealing with the present. Aptly, when asked if he could go back in time, he cites Michael J. Fox in the 1985 classic film, Back to the Future. He then uses the concept to compare him and Bari smoking in their quote-unquote DeLorean, turning weed into their time machine. Finally, he embodies his dismissal of this woman by stating, "I'm John Cena with the visual, and that you can't see me now." By recalling John Cena's famous catchphrase, he flips it into a denial of access. He's been hurt too deeply, and he doesn't want to engage with this person at all. However, this is just his perspective on how things ended between them. Conversely, Ravyn Lenae, playing his ex-partner in the song, depicts heavy consideration and metacognition when considering the relationship, embodying the idea of overthinking. Throughout her presence, she makes consistent references to the mind in the phrase, "I think." As in, "Lately I've been thinking about your glow again. Lately I've been thinking about a go again. I think I made you too special." Lenae is attempting to make sense of the relationship fragments by listing potential reasons why they fell apart, as well as considering whether or not it's worth it to try the relationship again. She also interrogates the concept of self-worth throughout the song. In the chorus, she admits that "I think I made you too special," stating that when they were together, she considered her partner highly, almost to her detriment. Later in her verse, she pushes back by asking, "Do you know my diamond soul? Do you know my time is gold?" By comparing herself and her time to precious metals and minerals, she asserts to her ex and the listener that she too was special while questioning whether or not her partner recognized this in her at all. Finally, in the climax of the song, Ravyn Lenae's thoughts are swirling to the point of being almost overwhelming. Behind her singing, you hear reverse vocals alongside Ravyn's thoughts, almost simultaneously depicting her disorientation while also showing how preoccupied she is with the past. She concludes that "I can't control myself," revealing that after all of this overthinking, it's culminated not into a second go at the relationship, but a one-night stand with her ex, a relapse. Finally, let's look at the double entendre that is the song's title, Glass Flows. The concept of glass floors or glass flows doubles for the idea of sneaking around as well as navigating difficult conversations in a relationship. Both of these meanings are given their definition within the context of each verse. In the second verse, Smino implicitly calls the chorus to mind through the concept of tippy toes. In the chorus, he sings, "Walking light on these glass flows, my tippies, I'm toe up." Here, Smino utilizes the phrase as a split compound phrase to simultaneously express his attempts to navigate across the glass floor while also implying that he's inebriated or emotionally cut up from walking across the glass flows of conversation. However, at the start of the second verse, Smino warns, "You are about to ruin your pedicure, tippy-toeing and sneaking in the shot." In this instance, tippy toes refers to Smino's ex sneaking around Chicago to cheat. In addition, the first verse is framed as two sides of a phone. Not a phone conversation, just a phone. While Ravyn Lenae is overthinking whether or not it'd be a good idea to rekindle a lost flame, Smino is drunkenly calling his ex to spark the physical connection. However, as the conclusion of the verse depicts, they're both in vulnerable places, unable to engage with each other outside of their hurt. Ravyn feels her regrets seep in, while Smino almost immediately pulls back and numbs himself. Here, we're reminded of the fragility of glass, as we understand now the fear that comes with walking across a glass floor. A glass floor can break. Glass flows can break. And as we're sitting with Smino and Ravyn Lenae at the end of the song, we recognize that people can also break, almost as easily as glass. As such, they find their own ways to avoid being broken or hurt in this instance. For Smino, it's falling into vices to ensure that he's emotionally numb and protected from feeling anything deeper than hurt. Conversely, Ravyn Lenae is overthinking all of the potential outcomes that comes with a relationship, whether or not it's good or bad, to avoid the same hurt. However, while they're both secure in their own methods of healing, they are also left unsatisfied with how the relationship ended and where they're at. However, so long as they're protecting themselves, they wouldn't have to worry about having to navigate across a glass floor or a glass flow with each other. Because at the end of the day, the only way the glass floor breaks is when they have that intense conversation with each other. It's when they have that moment to feel the hurt, to allow themselves to heal again. Glass Flows is Smino and Ravyn Lenae untangling the messy emotions that come with a bad breakup, expressing two different ways one deals with hard feelings. Either you constantly think about what went wrong, trying to consider what about the relationship was worth it, or you disappear into self-healing, using vices and memories as gauze to absorb the pain of the separation. Either you overthink or you don't think about it at all. While neither method can be considered quote-unquote healthy, these are truly human reactions to a painful moment that's ubiquitous. Some days, you're trying to make sense of what was before. Other days, one needs to just forget about it. No matter which path you take, healing is always on the other side. Glass Flows finds Smino reeling from a bad breakup, one that involved cheating and misunderstanding. In the second verse, he decides to escape from these things by finding his childhood friend and fellow Zero Fatigue rapper Bari. Funnily enough, we find him in the next song, fulfilling the role of the best friend in times of crisis. What's the best way to get over somebody? By getting under somebody else.
Kiss my penny point to the sky to swing like Sammy. My skin go like who the fuck want a Grammy. Put my bullshit in the box and let it burn like candles. Tryna fuck Megan Good and Megan Fox on camera. My bitch watch Scandal and your bitch so scandalous. 300 for the kiss like Jesus on sandals. But fuck it, I want the pants. But fuck it, I want phantoms. Like fuck it, I'ma be famous. Like fuck.
This song of shit talk, flexing, and camaraderie is Flea Flicker, a song I'll break down in its entirety next time on Lyrics of Rap Explained. But back to Ravyn Lenae. Ever since Black Swan, Ravyn Lenae has had a meteoric rise, one that's recently been hallmarked by one of 2025's biggest songs as of recording, Love Me Not, off of her sophomore album, Bird's Eye. It's been incredible witnessing her rise in popularity, and it's comforting to see true artistry soar to mainstream recognition. For those who are also interested in what else she's created, 2018's Crush EP hosts nostalgic funk notes while also displaying Ravyn Lenae's talent as a writer and a singer. My personal favorites are Closer, Ode to You, and her classic Sticky. However, you truly can't go wrong with any of her music. Feel free to check out her catalog, and I'll see you next week. Lyrics of Rap Explained is written and produced by yours truly, August Graves. So if you're interested in anything that I'm doing, you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter under Graves the Griot, and on YouTube under Lyrics of Rap Explained. In addition, I'm going to be setting up a Patreon shop soon where you can suggest to me artists and songs for me to look into, as well as your own work if you want me to take a look and analyze that. So stay tuned for that. In addition, all beats that you've heard that weren't created by other artists were created by me. So if you're interested, I also go by Holy Waters, spelled HXLYWTRS. You can find me on BeatStar. If you like the podcast, definitely tell people about it by all means. We're just getting started, and I'm excited to see where this takes us. Alright, y'all have a good one, and I'll see you next week where we will be discussing Morocco.